name's Smonkus, and welcome down to Breaking Down Braudel. Let's begin. So, let's start. What is a mountain? A mountain is a vague term. It is defined as 1,500 meters, and is generally put there for the sake of consistency. However, there are a few clues that can help us determine what a mountain is. These geographic features can alter the development of societies and alter what is present there. Alright, let's start. Now, across the Mediterranean, you'll have various coastal mountains. These are present everywhere, whether we're talking about the Pyrenees in Spain and France, the Sierra Nevada in Grenada, the Atlas Mountains, the Alps, particularly in Provence. There's a certain coastal range I know is there. And what we have is we have a hot and arid desert or Mediterranean climate next to these tall, large, snow-capped mountains. And this can happen even a few miles inland. And they definitely changed the development of the Mediterranean, which we'll go into soon. But the ice trade. Now, Braudel talks to us for quite some time about a medieval Mediterranean ice trade. Now, I can find no sources to back this up, at least I can access. But considering his credibility and how many examples and sources he cites, I think it is a rather interesting footnote to look into. Now, as I mentioned before, we have these hot desert environments right next to these snow-capped mountains. So, when I'm in my hot desert environment, I can find that snow quite appealing, and that's exactly what happens. So, between Syria, where you have these snow-capped mountains such as in Damascus, what would happen is that they would bag snow, they would relay it by horse, and bring it to Egypt, where it'd be consumed as snow, ice, or even just cold water. And this is present in Malta and Turkey and other places across the Mediterranean. It is a luxury good. It could also be shipped by ship or transported by many methods. In Malta, in fact, the knights actually write, if they did not receive their snow and ice from Naples, that they would die from sickness, where snow and ice were the only remedies. This was like 100% serious, by the way. These, like, actual letters. Knights weren't messing with their fucking snow water, goddamn. But afterwards in Turkey, from Busra, I believe it's pronounced, to Istanbul, we have ice arriving in the boatloads. And in order to manufacture all this ice, then get it onto ships, we have pashas such as Pasha Muhammad establishing ice mines. Mines with ice in them, where they'd mine ice. And in fact, it's able to bring him in 80,000 sequins a year. Now, this was in 1500s, so someone's able to do the math on that and see how much 80,000 sequins goes today. I'd like to see the yearly profit on that. But let's step aside from this. Actually, one more thing that Braudel talks about. Talks about, because of its presence in Italy, particularly near Naples and the Apennines, that it might actually be where we get gelato from, as I believe the Spaniards and Italians, with this sugary ice, would do various crafts and art-related things. I'd have to go back and check. You can read about it yourself in the first chapter. And that's where we get gelato. And I think he actually cites some encyclopedia about gelato or something. But let's talk a bit more about mountain society. So, what happens in the mountains? Who lives there? So, it's primarily farmers and herdsmen who live in the mountains, such as the people of Pueblo de Shittington. And it'd be home to various hamlets and other towns, such as the aforementioned one here. And they can't really sustain much life. They aren't the best for cultivation. And generally, you just have pastoral life. So, they're a bit impoverished. However, they are free from the strife that soldiers and pirates may bring, and generally will reserve more autonomy because of that. Braudel actually writes that pastoral life was a big thing here, with a knight or a priest being no richer than his flock. So you would have a bit of equality here. There was no strict and rigid noble system like they had in the plains. However, because of this, they are sure free from the toils of the plains. However, they are not free, or they don't get the benefits of the plains, such as all that cultivation and, I suppose, protection. And this can be remedied, if you want to say that, through the building of roads, which can be seen as an extension of the plains. Why is it this? It's because they provide transport and communication, such as the transport of soldiers, as well missionaries. So, mountain society generally would have freedom, but at the cost of poverty. And this can be seen through ways such as religion. Because of the lack of communication, religion, it does not influence the mountains much. And for example, in the Alpujarras, I believe it's pronounced, in Granada, a very high section of the mountains in Granada. The people there were Christian, Christian and Muslim, but these Christians were so uncontacted and could not preach, speak Latin, or do the sacrament at all that they were killed and oppressed. And seemed really no better than the Muslims. In fact, Braudel takes a passage from the ecclesiastical history of Granada, where the author writes, I forgot his name, in their veins, not one drop of heathen blood. So, they weren't exactly influenced by really any religious society, even Muslim society. And Braudel actually writes that most of their religious influence was from that of Roman times. So, there isn't much religion or contact from plain society. However, as I mentioned earlier, that could change through the building of roads. And Spanish preachers would actually travel up roads to the mountains to preach the gospel. And another example we have is in Bosnia, there's a significant Muslim population. And what Braudel says about this Muslim population is that the population there is the fact it's Muslim shows the lack of Christian influence or really any religious influence in the mountains of Bosnia. Which I think is a right application of that method that Braudel presents. Do I have another slide? No. Let's get back to the benefits of the mountains. Now, there are many benefits of the mountains, such as the ones I mentioned earlier, but in relation to resources, mountains actually, while they may not have large amounts of grain or wheat, had varied resources. And what I mean by this is that they had cheese. A lot of mountain regions are known for their cheeses. They had lumber, orchards, not necessarily good, but they had pastoral life, so a lot of sheep and livestock. And some of these orchards could actually provide for the people of the mountains through the nuts of trees being processed into bread, which is apparently common practice. And even in the highlands of Granada, there was a silkworm industry that prominently contributed to the Spanish economy. An issue with these great and varied goods is that they don't last forever. And for the sake of survival, peaceful or not, populations have to be expulsed to the mountains into the plains. And what this actually leads to is those mountain dwellers coming down to the plains at certain times of the year in influencing plain culture. Footnote, but an interesting one. And I think that's really all we have to talk about the mountains. If you have any comments, anything you would like to say about this video, maybe some inaccuracies or questions, really just anything, comment below. The next episode will be Braudel's Foothills and Plateaus chapter. So, see you then.